Hello, and welcome to Friends for Life, a podcast of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod's Life Ministry. We're sharing stories and insights of real people living out God's love for the people He's created. We hope you'll stick around and be our friends for life.
Thanks so much for joining us for this special episode of Friends for Life. I'm your host, Steph Neugebauer. This is a first for our show. I have two guests with me today, my dear friends, Tim and Rebekah Janke. I'll let them introduce themselves in a second, but first I want to introduce this series called Friends in Real Life. This series will show up occasionally throughout our regular season. There'll be episodes that will tell real stories of real life issues from the perspective of real people living them currently or having gone through them before. This story is extra special because we're coming in the middle of it. This is a story of a family currently on their journey through the process of adoption. And to make this first one in our Friends in Real Life series even better, we actually really are good friends in real life. I was in Tim and Rebekah's wedding. Rebekah was in my and Kirk's wedding. So it's really special to have you guys on. I obviously know a lot about you, but would you please introduce yourselves to the listeners?
Certainly.
Hey, Steph. Thanks for having us. It's great to be here with you. I am Rebekah Janke, and I live with my family, Tim and our son, Elijah, who will be 3 this summer. And we have 2 dogs in North Dakota. I am an instructional coach with the middle school in our town, and I'm here with my husband, Tim.
And I am a veterinarian. So together as a family, we like doing a lot of outdoor activities together and hiking and doing all of that and just trying to be as active as possible.
So I met Tim, of course, when you guys began dating and knowing each other. And then, of course, the early years of your marriage. And I got to know you when you first started or were in vet school. And so that was a special time, too, visiting you guys in Iowa when you were there. And looking,
our little trailer.
You showing us and being very excited about all of your vet school graphic pictures and videos of surgeries and all of that.
Yes.
So,
Yep.
Yes. But Tim has a...
Well, you could appreciate that.
Oh, yes. Yeah, thank you. Tim has a very special gift, and I have on more than one occasion texted them frantically because our dog ate mouse poisoning or this or that. So yes, thank you. You both have really special giftings. And Rebekah, what's an instructional coach for your school district? Can you kind of explain that?
Yes. So I work with teachers, especially, and help them kind of hone their craft and help them with instruction in their classrooms to positively impact teaching and learning.
And prior to that, you were a teacher in the school setting, correct?
Yep. I've been a classroom teacher in Lutheran schools and public schools in 3rd through 6th grade.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks so much for coming on, guys. Let's kind of start at the beginning, I guess, of your story, the beginning of your story with your adoption process, that is. What led you guys to consider adoption, for one? And then what did that conversation look like between the two of you?
Sure. So with that, it was a little bit of kind of an evolved process over time. It wasn't really something that just one day we woke up and bam, we're doing it. When we first got married, we had a lot of, hopes for raising a big family and all of that. And, thought like every other couple, you start to try to have kids and you just have kids. And it ended up being a pretty long struggle for us. And it was kind of in the middle of doing some of our doctoring and trying to figure out what was going on that we kind of were at a crossroads of, what path do we take? And at that point, Rebekah's brought up the idea of adoption, and I honestly had never really thought about it before, hadn't really put anything into it, and we really thought about it. We took some time, we thought about it, we prayed about it, and I don't know, I mostly just needed some time just to think about what adoption would look like and all of that. And
at that time, it just wasn't our path.
Yeah, it really wasn't.
Not where we were being led.
Yeah, yep. And very fortunate for that, because now we have our son Elijah from going down some other paths there. And just during doing some of that doctoring and everything, the more and more we went through it, the more and more I just felt this calling for adoption. And just the I mean, the more I thought about it, the more it grew. And I finally got to a point too where I just, one day, I looked at Rebekah, I was like, we have to adopt. It doesn't matter how many kids we end up with, this is something we need to do. And it is, I don't know, it's unbelievable, that feeling inside of you of a true calling of we need to do this, not just, oh yeah, that'd be kind of cool. Yeah.
And I think you only do that when it's a calling, when the Lord calls you to. It's it's not a process that you just. Oh, gosh, you'll need to.
That's okay. But that's all right.
It's not a process that's for the faint of heart. It's something that you do when you're called to do it.
Yeah.
And for the faint of heart, I've gotten to talk to you guys and be part of this journey just as friends. And we'll get into this a little bit more later, but witnessing what you've shared with me, the ups and downs, the challenges, the hurdles you've had to cross, it seems like, only by the grace of God and, with his help, would it be something that you'd be able to go through together?
Definitely.
Tim and Rebekah, adoption is a pretty general term, but we can look at, different aspects of adoption. I mean, we could do several different episodes on adoption, really. But just briefly, could you kind of walk us through what adoption, what the options are for adoption, how it could look for different families, even for different states, even going through different agencies? What kind of options are there out there?
Yeah, so when we first started the process, we didn't even realize what all our options were. And Tim is really the researcher in our family, and he started to dig into, the different paths, how this might look for us. And in general, I guess there were kind of 3 different paths going within our own state of North Dakota, or going with a domestic adoption across the United States, or an international adoption. And at the time, we just felt we were being led to going with a domestic adoption. In-state adoptions, they take quite a bit longer to complete.
Yep.
What did you find when you were?
So with our current state, just to have your application processed would have been a year wait. And then in order to match would have been, multiple years beyond that. So just didn't really seem with that long of a wait, just adoptions, not all that, plentiful in North Dakota or that type of a thing, where a lot of wait time there. So that's what kind of led us further down the path.
Do you think that's a North Dakota thing, or is that like across the boards?
I don't know, honestly. And now that we're active and we're seeing cases with our kind of domestic adoption, we're really seeing cases from all over the place. So it's not like you see, outrageously more cases from this state or that state. So it's, I don't know that answer.
Okay. So you have chosen then domestic adoption, but not necessarily within North Dakota. In fact, probably the chances of you receiving a child into your home that's from North Dakota is probably very slim than I would expect.
Very slim.
Yeah. We've seen a number of cases and we haven't seen any from North Dakota.
Yep.
Domestic, international, in-state. And then can you tell us the difference between open adoption, closed adoption? Is there anything in between those two?
Yeah, there's a lot of different degrees of openness. Many adoptions now, some kind of open adoption is most common now. We have seen very few, maybe one case where the mama wanted a closed adoption. Openness is anything from letters to pictures sent, exchange of pictures through a platform, or exchange through personal email, to visits. And it's very much like an extended family kind of a relationship. like birth mom, not that she would be called an aunt, but kind of like an aunt type of relationship. And really, even in some open adoptions, like you have her family as a part of your extended family, as well as that child is somebody else's grandchild, also. So varying levels of openness. And I think that closed adoptions are pretty few and far between from what we've learned over the past months.
And with our little bit of our educational material and our home study and all of that, really an open adoption is far and above the best for the adoptive child as well. Knowing who their birth parents actually are and all of that is so much healthier of a relationship as well. And that's really something that we were a little bit honestly apprehensive about in the beginning of what exactly does that look like? Is it kind of co-parenting, so to speak, or what does that relationship look like?
It's not.
It's not at all. And the more you learn about it and the more you dig into it, the more like you really, we are going to respect whatever our birth family wants as far as their level of openness, but really, kind of hoping for at least some level of openness, just, it is a lot healthier relationship there.
From what we've seen. And some may not be comfortable with that. And that's not to say that that's,
correct.
There's a right way or a wrong way. That's just the way that, that we
feel at this point. Yep. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you've done quite a bit of research just on your own. But who do you receive help from throughout this process as far as where did you learn about what's healthiest for the child in terms of openness with birth parents? Is this a counselor through an agency, or are these separate classes you take? Rebekah, what is adoption consultants?
Potential adoptive families can work with consultants, and you don't have to work with a consultant to adopt, but when you work with a consultant, the consultants really focus on adoptive families, and they work with agencies that really focus their energy and their resources towards birth families. And then with a consultant, they show your case to a number of different agencies. So we've seen cases from many different agencies, not just one. And I guess really the benefits that we've seen with that and what we've really enjoyed is our consultants have really held our hand through this process. They've helped us with all of the steps along the way. And also they truly have focused their time and energy towards us and helped us understand our side of things. And we can tell with the cases that we see that the agencies that they work with truly are taking great care of these moms. So that's, we've really appreciated that route, and it's been the route that's right for us.
Yep.
Can you take us, I guess, from kind of beginning of, choosing the agency, choosing your adoption consultants, and then through the process of paperwork. And then I heard you mention home studies, kind of a kind of step-by-step what it's been like for you.
Yeah, so it started with an application to our consultants. Well, I told you that Tim was the researcher, and in his research, we did talk on the phone with a few different agencies. In all of his research, we found faithful adoption consultants, and we talked with them on the phone, and we talked over and prayed over where, the route we should take. And anyways, we ended up with Faithful. So we applied to them, and that was kind of an extensive application in and of itself, with references and narrative responses and some financial information. And after a couple weeks, our application was accepted. And then I told you that they kind of held our hand. So they gave us a whole list of the different paperwork that we needed to collect. So it's that
like 32 or 36 different items.
Yeah, and some of those items had lists. So.
Oh no, a list of lists of lists.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It was like all sorts of different identifying, documents that we just needed to photocopy or get a certified copy of. We had physicals, and Elijah had a physical. We had drug tests. We had to collect information on our financials, background checks, fingerprints. How many pages of questionnaire did we figure out we did? Was it like 40 some pages of narrative responses about our lives and the families that we grew up in and our family.
Yep.
We also had the home study to complete, which was a separate process. Our consultant set us up with Catholic Charities out of Bismarck, North Dakota, and a social worker came out 5 times to our home and did interviews with us and met Elijah. And
were these announced or unannounced visits?
They were all announced.
Yep.
Tim and I both had separate visits, and we had joint visits, and Elijah was in the home sometimes, and sometimes he wasn't.
And that home study process really, honestly, kind of intimidated me at the beginning of it. Like going into that, I was kind of nervous. Like I expected the home study to be like a gotcha, kind of an event is what I was playing it up to be in my brain of, oh, you think you're a good person, but actually you're not, or that kind of a thing, And it was so much more about understanding who we were as individuals, understanding who we were as a couple, where we were at in the adoption process. Did we understand what we were getting into? What kind of hurdles could we face in it? And are you prepared to, to face those hurdles and just really...
Or even what supports would you need to be successful?
Yeah, it was really just making sure that we were prepared, physically, emotionally for the process, and that she could, really, just help us through it. It was a wonderful process.
Yeah, and the home study is not about the home; it's about the family.
It's about us.
And,
yeah.
I guess when I think of what I would have assumed a home study would be like, oh, coming into your kitchen and I see you didn't do your dishes,
And that's exactly, we were like running around putting baby locks on things that did not even need to be baby locked and making sure every single outlet, even the ones that were way up high, had a plug in it, and like all these like silly things that like looking back on it, it was like, we spent how long making sure our home was like bomb-proof when it already was bomb-proof because we're first-time parents.
Measuring the crib slats and all that stuff.
Exactly. Exactly.
But it sounds like what a home study was and is really a supportive role for you, and then a deep dive into who you are as a family, so that they can help guide you through the process better.
Exactly. Yep.
Wow.
And they assigned us a number of educational materials about open adoption and about conspicuous families and what else? Just bringing a baby home with another child in your home.
Yep.
And
educating that, that adoptive child,
what's appropriate at different times.
Appropriate, information to share at what stages of life and, all of... just, a whole gamut of information that we had to, do classes on, which were very helpful.
At the time of recording this, then it is almost June of 2021. When would you say this process, I guess, technically began for you?
It officially began at the end of October of 2020, when we applied to our consultants.
So
we officially went active
at the end of March.
Yeah, end of March. Yeah.
So about 9 months have passed now. And then where are you now? Are you like you've gotten pretty much everything out of the way and now you're in the waiting process?
Yep.
Yes, we're active. We when you work with a consultant, you see cases of expectant moms, and as the potential adoptive family, you say if you want to present your profile, your family to that mom or not. So we see cases every week. We see like 2 or 3 each week.
Yep.
And we believe that we'll match with who we're supposed to match with. So we say yes to the cases that we see. And then moms take a look at sounds like our consultants have told us that they see around 20 profiles when they sit down and look at families. And we hear no. So far, we've heard no. And every no we hear, we know it's another no closer to our yes. So we're waiting. We're waiting and saving money and saying yes and waiting for our yes.
Yeah.
When a family or when a first family says no, we get an email that says that they've connected with another family and this is not no, this is not yet.
Yeah.
And you're one, which is a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
So,
but still has to be really hard in the same breath.
Yeah.
Well, then the timeline for you and your family, when do you think, like on average, how long does it take for you to be matched with a family?
With this particular agent or consultants, their average time to match is like 4.5 months of being active. And their average number of cases that you'll see to match is around 40 to 60. And so far, we're just over 20 cases that we've seen. So we're probably roughly halfway there, but we have a couple active cases right now, so it could be tomorrow. But
it's all in the Lord's timing. It truly is.
Yeah,
wow.
it is.
Wow. What a leap of faith, really. And I mean, ever since March, when you said you went active, I mean, you just got to be sitting on the edge of your seats, like knowing really any day you could be welcoming a child, a baby, a new person into your family.
Yep.
Yeah. We try not to be, but we've been anxious people.
Yep.
I can understand that. What kind of obstacles then have you so far come up against? I mean, you mentioned going through the financials and then saving up money. I'm assuming, but don't want to put words in your mouth, that has to be an obstacle. Is that true? And have there been other obstacles?
Yes. When we started, we had enough money to apply to Faithful.
Okay.
That's how much we had when we started. And I don't think we really, well, I didn't stress about it. I knew that we'd have what we need when we needed it. And we just believed that nobody can just afford adoption. You can't just afford it. We knew that we'd have what we need when we need it. And so far we've had what we needed when we needed it. And right now we don't have enough money for any of these cases that we're saying yes to, but we know that it will be fine. We know that the Lord will take care of us and our family. Yeah.
Can you explain why it's so expensive? What is entailed? What's needed to make these? I mean, we're talking not just thousands, but tens of thousands of dollars, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. Multiple tens of thousands of dollars. Yep. And that's one aspect that and even with talking with, just everyday people, about it too. Everyone brings, well, why is it so expensive? Well, why is it so expensive? And until you really get into the process, now I kind of understand, yes, it is expensive, but there's a lot that goes into it. And especially making sure that first family, that birth mom is being taken care of and her needs are met. And all of the other lawyer fees that need to be done and all of those things. It really, none of the cases that we see, you look at it and say this is outrageously none of this money should be spent or that kind of a thing. It really seems like it's justified where the money is going to.
I said that we've learned a lot through this process. I think we've just grown in understanding for that, for the cost. It's truly money put to pro-life use. Yeah. It's marketing to help women know that adoption is an option. It's putting up this woman in a home while she's pregnant. Yep. We see some cases of people who don't have a home, and part of the cost is for that, or for making sure this woman has comfortable clothes to wear while she's pregnant, and making sure that she can pay her electric bill, and just our empathy for this expectant mom and expectant moms all over all over the world just has really grown.
Mm-hmm.
Our empathy for them has really grown.
Yep.
And we truly have a love for them that I can't say we had when we started the process, just because we didn't know, I guess.
Yep.
Just so I'm understanding it correctly, then it's not only lawyer fees, and then are there agency fees connected?
Yep.
But it's also caring for the mother while she's pregnant,
Correct.
prenatal care. Okay. I did not realize that. I truly didn't.
Yep.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Have there been other obstacles besides the finances?
Yeah, so definitely. Finance is obviously a huge one. The other thing in the very beginning that just kind of slowed us down, which was a smaller obstacle, but the average family takes about 3 months to go active. It took us a little bit longer than that, closer to 5 months.
We're exceptional.
And part of that was just Christmas. Okay. The holiday season being a downtime. I mean, it seemed like every night we would get home from work, we'd eat, we'd put Elijah to bed, we'd work on adoption stuff until we go to bed. And then on the weekends when he was napping, we were working on adoption stuff. Like, it really didn't seem like we squandered that time at all. Mm-hmm. And it's just such a process. It took a while.
It drug out.
It really drug out. Yeah. For a while, like, it was like, okay, are we ever going to be active? But again, all in the Lord's timing, it's all working out.
Yeah.
The other probably biggest obstacle has just been the emotional side of seeing cases. And I mean, especially the empathy side of things has really, it's honestly kind of been a little bit of a struggle for me. Like, you see all these cases, and it's good to see the cases and all of that aspect, but just you see what some of these first families and birth moms are going through, and just your heart goes out to them. And when you see 4 cases in a week, and it can be, it's kind of a toll.
Yeah. Like empathy overdrive. Yeah. Like, you see one challenging thing of one case, and you compound that with a challenge of a different case. And, they're not our burden to shoulder. But when you see it all at once, it can kind of be a lot to process.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that when, the case that we match with, the Lord will give us what we need to be able to thrive in that case. And we know that the Lord will match us with where we're supposed to match. It just, sometimes it's a lot to look at all of it at one time, I guess.
Yep.
Plus, I can imagine, I'm just speculating here, but not only reading those cases and then reading what the moms are kind of challenged with just in their individual stories, but also that their stories could in a way turn into part of your story, that these children who are right now in their womb could be your child. So there's like an intense connection, I would imagine, with each case that you read, even if they're going to be a no for you.
Yeah. That was exactly the case with me. Like, every single case I approached it like, yes, we're going to match to this one. So then your brain is constantly thinking about, okay, so what would be the positives there? What would be the challenges that you'd have to try to work through? And then when you're trying to process all of that for multiple cases at a time, you just, it just gets to be so much. It's just, your brain just can't handle that. So
your heart can't handle
your heart can't handle that. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah.
Well, I would imagine then that the support of each other is probably what's providing some sanity and some comfort in this time, and then also, of course, your faith rooted in Christ and the fact that He has this all planned out according to His will. That's got to be comforting too. Yeah. But I'm curious, Rebekah and Tim, have you experienced this journey in different ways in terms of emotions? Rebekah, do you have descriptions of how your emotions have felt throughout this process that are different because you're a mom and you're a woman versus, Tim, how are you experiencing these emotions? You're a dad and a guy.
Yes, but I'm a softie. So I very much have been way more emotional throughout this process than I expected to be at all. I expected it to to not really feel a connection with the case until we match, and then that's our case. And every other case was just a possibility that you don't really get all wrapped up in. And for me, honestly, that was a huge surprise on how emotional I've been. Just, I mean, exactly like you said, you wouldn't expect necessarily, the guy to be the emotional one, not to stereotype, men and women, gender roles and all of that aspect. But yeah, I have been way more emotional than I expected to be throughout this whole journey.
Yeah. And I've definitely had empathy throughout the journey, but I would say I've been less emotional as we've seen cases and
a lot more emotionally stable.
Well, we take turns.
Yeah. And that was one aspect during the home study too. We really did alternate. I would feel really overwhelmed and she would be the strong supportive one, and then she would be really overwhelmed and I would be the strong supportive one, and we really kind of alternated supporting each other for whatever that person needed at that particular time. So
marriage,
I guess maybe
a three-legged stool. Really, it's you, your spouse, and Jesus. So
yes. I guess maybe one piece of it that I've had to process that I guess you probably haven't is in one of our trainings, we learned about, it was kind of a new idea for us, but the fact that adoption, while it's a wonderful blessing, is a loss for every party involved. There is loss for the child, and there is loss for the first family, and there is loss for the adoptive family. And one of the areas of loss that this training mentioned was, you're not carrying a child, and you're not experiencing childbirth, and I guess that that's just something that's been a little bit challenging for me. While we are an expectant family right now, but it looks different. And just as a woman, I guess that's a difference, and that is a loss for me. I'm very excited about the child that we'll match with, but that's something that's taken a little bit to process, I guess.
Do you have other families who have gone before you in this, who've offered advice, other families who've adopted, who've kind of been your support and also guided you through this as well?
Steph, we haven't really connected with a lot of families who have a completed adoption. We have grown friendships with a number of families who are actually in the adoption process right now. And that's been really helpful for, there's just some struggles that you can maybe only say so bluntly to somebody who understands what you're experiencing. And that's been really helpful to be able to have those open conversations and kind of unedited, I guess, conversations where you can just say what you think, because you know that you're in a safe space with somebody who can empathize and understand. Mm-hmm. So we've felt really blessed to connect with those families who are in a pretty similar place. Yep. You mentioned earlier that the route can look very different, and these families are on different routes than us, but can understand what we're going through, and we can understand what they're going through.
Are these families in your area, in your state?
Okay. Yes. Yep.
In our area.
That's great. Then, I mean, I would imagine that you could probably meet in person or have these kind of conversations face to face. That must be extra helpful.
It really is.
Rebekah and Tim, can you share with the listeners how you are preparing your home space and then also your family, especially Elijah, for receiving another child into your family?
So in preparing our home, as we talked with the social worker who helped us with our home study, we started talking about what it looked like to set our home up for another child. And she really encouraged us to wait until we were matched to make it look like we were getting ready for a baby. And I think that's really, maybe that's not for all families, but that's really felt right for us. I think it'd be hard for us to have infant things around our home that aren't being used, and we don't know, when they will be. I also think it would be confusing for our nearly 3-year-old Elijah to see things ready to go, but not really know what was going on, or that it wasn't maybe super real yet for him. So we talk about adoption a little bit with him, but mostly through prayers. We pray with our son every night, and we pray for expectant moms, and we pray for the child that will join our family, and we pray for the mom of the child who will join our family. And so that's mostly where he hears us talk about adoption. So I guess that's kind of how we've been preparing our home and our family.
Yep. And then that'll just continue to grow as we match, then you dive further into, okay, we're going to be adopting a child, they're going to be coming into our home, and then helping him. That's the one thing our counselor really our social worker really talked to us about, is having him involved in the process as well can really help out. She also gave us some references for some good books on adoption and all of that. That's more geared towards, I guess, the adoptive child and letting them, understand and kind of process what adoption is. But, Elijah being involved in those books as well, I think will be, really beneficial for him also.
And that's a cue really for everyone listening that, these prayers aren't just for sweet little Elijah to speak, but it's really for the whole church to be speaking on behalf of families like you and the birth parents. How sweet that he can set an example for us as adults to remind us to keep these people in our prayers. So speaking of, then how have your family members, friends, even your local church been able to support you through this process besides simply praying for you?
Well, certainly prayers. I think along with prayers, kind of the first way that we asked for support was through letters of reference. We asked a number of family members and friends and coworkers and our pastor to write references for us. Most of our applications have needed different references. So to our consultants and for our home study and to the grants that we've applied for, those have all needed references. So our family and friends really supported us in a tangible way by writing those for us and by talking on the phone for some of our references, answering, writing out answers to questionnaires. I think another way that we've really been supported is people, family and friends who really listen. There's kind of a lot that we're processing right now, and we're learning that things are different for children who are adopted. And there are different areas where some sensitivity is needed. And as we're kind of processing that and trying to understand it and kind of trying to prepare our family and people that we're around often for that, just that listening has been, we really appreciate that.
Yep.
Anything that I missed?
It really seems, throughout this whole process, we have just felt such overwhelming support. Like we feel so incredibly blessed by the level of support that we've felt from our friends and family in our church. It kind of seems like with it, you're always asking and you're always asking and you're asking more and you're always asking. And it is a very humbling experience to have people just openly give. And yes, I'm going to do what you need. And I know I already asked you for this, but can we have this? Yes, gladly. Like it is a very humbling process there with all the support we've had throughout it.
Do you want to speak about our Both Hands project? We've had an outpouring of support with that.
Yeah, very much so. So we're doing a fundraising project to help fund our adoption. The organization is called Both Hands. You plan a service project for a widow in your community. And as part of that service project, you send out you and your core team send out pledge letters asking people to, sponsor your service day for this widow in need. All of the funds that get pledged go towards our adoption. And then you also ask area businesses for donations and everything to complete the service project. And it's really a way to bless someone and be blessed in return. And that has been quite a bit of work. We have our project next weekend. So it's coming up pretty quick. And the level of support that we've seen through that is
it's humbling.
So humbling. Like there aren't the right words to thank people for the level of support that, like, it just feels like there should be a bigger word than thank you that you can tell people for that. It has been a true blessing, and it's been just, such a wonderful experience so far, and we haven't even completed the project yet.
We've had people give donations of money for our adoption. We've had people send supplies from Arkansas and Iowa.
Wink, wink.
And we have a professional landscaper that's a friend of ours coming in and helping us plan and execute that piece at Miss Edith's house next weekend. We have a professional painter that we're friends with who's coming in and leading our team with the painting. We've been so supported, and some people are probably more private than we are with their adoptions, and I don't think that we would have been able to do the whole process without being open about what we have going on and ways that we could really use help. And it's like Tim said, we're kind of asking for help all the time, and it's very humbling, but it's just, we've felt so supported and just like we've been lifted up by our friends and family. Yep. And it's wonderful.
Yep.
I will tell you, just from my perspective, it's also a blessing to be brought into this process too. You're looking at it from a receiving end, but in a sense, I'm looking at it from a receiving end too, of getting to be part of this story, getting an opportunity to pray for you, pray for this child, pray for Elijah, and then also to, know what's going on, and knowing helps with knowing how to then help financially and otherwise. And it's good to have friends like painters and contractors and landscapers, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Tim and Rebekah, how has your Christian faith influenced the way that you're approaching this adoption process?
I think the biggest thing is that, we don't know how it's all going to work out. And a year ago, we wouldn't have thought that this is where our family would be. But we truly believe that God's plans will prevail.
Yep.
We trust that the case that we're to match with is the child that we're meant to raise. And we trust that the Lord's plans are good, and that the Lord is with us through this and has plans for our family.
Yep, very much so. That's probably the hardest part of, not even in an adoption process, but just in life, or at least for me, giving up control, and I'm a planner and I'm a researcher, so I just want to know, and that whole process of just giving up control to, hey, this is going to work, and we're going to, open up the doors that the Lord opens, and all of that. That really, without faith and believing what we believe, I think it would feel like a way different process and a way more stressful process than it is just, knowing that it's all going to work out, really.
There's no choice but to be still and know that
there you go.
God is in control, and He has us, and He has our family.
Exactly.
And He's working.
That was my next question. Has there been a scripture that's been especially comforting or encouraging to you?
I'd say that's really mine. That really speaks to me, is just, in Psalms, just be still and know. And even just that little phrase there, just knowing that, okay, yep, He has us, it's all going to work out.
And for me, it's my cup overflows from Psalm 23. I think Tim mentioned earlier, we've just always envisioned a big, lively active family that fills a home. And that's been really challenging for us to have. And even through that, we have an overflowing cup, and the Lord has greatly blessed us. So I guess that's been another scripture that's brought me peace, I guess, knowing that what is what is supposed to be.
Yep.
And it's a blessing.
And finally, what piece of encouragement would you give to families who are considering adoption? And then what is one piece of encouragement you would give to those who are supporting families going through adoption?
To potential adoptive families, I guess just what we were talking about, give up control. God will finish what He started, and God's plans will prevail, and do a whole lot of learning along the way, because there's a lot to learn. It's not for the faint of heart, but it's a wonderful calling.
Tim, what about you?
If an adoptive family asks you, and again, we have not really been turned down. I mean, when we've asked for support, we've gotten for support. But really, and if an adoptive family is approaching you for support in their adoption, it's because you truly mean something to them. And they want to bring you in on this journey. And they also, truly need your help. Like, as you kind of already talked about, Steph, feeling like it's a blessing on your end as well. I can kind of, see that, like, the people that we've asked for support and all of that are like,
they're people that we deeply love, and we think highly of them. They're a part of the story. Yeah.
It's kind of, adoption is a way to extend your family into, again, the first family, talking about that. And as well, bringing everyone into this fold, it just feels like such a huge just community effort where everyone is involved in it. And it's just, I don't know, it's been a really neat experience. So get involved if you have an adoptive family, and that of, and it'll be a great blessing.
Yeah, get involved. That would be, I guess, just from this perspective here, an encouragement to people, because Christ calls the church to care for the orphans, to care for the widows. And that's a charge for the entire church. And so it may not look like, like your story, but everyone is supposed to be a part of that story in whatever way that looks. Prayers, financially supporting families going through adoption, supporting agencies that help families connect with birth families, all of that. The church should be a part of that in some way. So that would be my encouragement to listeners.
I think that's great.
I was just thinking another piece of advice to people who are supporting adoptive families, just to listen. The family who's looking to adopt is really processing a lot, and that listening is just so invaluable, and it's very appreciated.
What does that look like? Is that phone conversations? Is that for you? Is that like face-to-face conversations, or have you received support even from people that are, far, far away from you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. We've connected in all the ways that you've mentioned. Yep. We've connected with people that we didn't even know, and now we have, conversation threads going in like a digital messaging format. So it's amazing how the Lord can use other people and other circumstances really to, I guess personally, that He's been able to speak to us in that way. And that's really a blessing.
Yeah. And that's also kind of an interesting point here as well. Like, we kind of talked about, when we started adoption, do we open this up, to the world, so to speak, or do we try to take this on as our own burden? And we both really felt like, okay, this is something that we need to open up and be transparent about. And it is really, really interesting, the connections that we've been able to make with people that we never would have been able to make by opening this up and being somewhat transparent. There still are things that are only for Rebekah and I, and you can't be 100% transparent. But that ability to open it up and, open up the conversation really has been a great blessing in our lives. And really, we've made some great connections with people that we never would have done if we wouldn't have shared our story.
Rebekah and Tim, thanks so much for being on. You mentioned your agencies and then the adoption consultants that you're working with. And for anyone listening who is interested in getting more information, we have a website for you. You can visit the LCMS website, searching RSOs, Recognized Service Organizations, specifically Lutheran Family Service, or you can go onto the RSO site for the LCMS. They have a directory there, and you can search by keyword adoption. That website is lcms.org/RSO. Rebekah and Tim, it was a pleasure to talk to you. And thanks so much to our listeners for tuning in. If you liked what you heard, please leave us a 5-star review, and don't forget to click the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. Which, speaking of upcoming episodes, they drop the 2nd and 4th Fridays of every month. And finally, do you want to know how to get in touch with us? Email us at friendsforlife@lcms.org. We want to hear from you about what you want to hear about when it comes to issues of life.
Thanks for joining us. Friends for Life is a podcast that introduces listeners to life issues by introducing them to friends who stand for life.